For some reason, there's always a big debate on whether you should be squatting to 90 degrees above parallel or all the way down. And for 99% of people, you should be focusing on squatting as deep as possible. The lower you can get, the better, as long as your form looks good. If you want to be stronger, if you want to have less injuries, and if you want to work out for the next 25, 30 years, the rest of your life, then this should be a primary goal of yours, is to increase range of motion in your squat. So what do we mean when we're talking about squat depth? We mean how low you are going in your squat. So when you reach the bottom of the squat, where is your hip crease in relation to your knees? There's a lot of different types of squats. There's the high bar squat that you may see powerlifters do where they go above or right at parallel. There's the 90-degree squat where someone would try and reach 90 degrees in relation to the angle of their knee. And then there's a full depth squat, which can vary per person, but this is when you're going to full range of motion below parallel, trying to get as deep as you can. Now, there are a lot of things that can affect your squat depth, even if you're trying to squat as deep as possible. So others might be able to squat a little bit deeper than you, and some people might be a little bit higher in relation to their hip and their knee. Limb length can have a lot to do with this. The length of your femurs, the length between your knee and your ankle, your flexibility in general, previous injuries, if you've had ankle, knee, or hip injuries, even thoracic spine, or the length of your torso can affect how you're squatting. Total mass or muscle mass can also affect your squat. So if you have really, really big thighs or really big calves or big glutes, this could reduce your range of motion because it's harder to get into these positions because you have mass on mass. Your legs are pushing against each other. But you can still squat low. And vice versa, if you have smaller legs, then it may be easier for you to get deeper. One of the biggest misconceptions is that squatting deep is not good for you, or it is dangerous, and that couldn't be more wrong. Squatting incorrectly is dangerous and can lead to injury, but as long as you are staying stacked and have good positions, then squatting to depth is not going to be dangerous. If anything, it's less dangerous and will help you be more injury-free. There's a quote that strength is gained in the range it is trained. Okay, so if you are limiting range of motion, you are not getting stronger in that range of motion that you're not getting to. So if you happen to go into that range of motion in another movement or in daily life, you're putting yourself at more risk because you are not strong in that position. There's a ton of huge benefits from squatting to full depth and trying to get lower. Two being flexibility and mobility. These are things that people are often trying to work on and they're trying to improve because it makes them feel better, it helps out with injuries, etc. But you could be doing this by just squatting to depth, lowering the weight and working on improving your form and improving the depth of your squat. So you could treat this as a mobility and flexibility exercise while you're still improving your strength. Efficiency in your training. Squatting to depth is going to allow you to be smoother and more efficient in your squats and your single leg work so that you can perform better, possibly do more work in a shorter amount of time, and have better training. It can also improve your joint health and prevent injuries. Like I said, you're only going to get stronger in the range of motion that you train. If you're squatting deeper, getting more range of motion, it's going to build more resiliency in your joint and you're going to prevent more injuries. Squatting deeper is also going to have more carryover to daily activities where you're not limited by range of motion. If you need to get in a full squat or if you need your hip and knee angle to be deeper than just a 90-degree squat, then this is going to help you. If you're stuck in a position or if you need to move something or if you're bending over or trying to reach down for something, then you having the mobility and strength at deeper end ranges is going to carry over much more than you just stopping at parallel because that's not always going to be feasible in daily life. The three biggest limitations in getting more squat depth or improving your squat that I see from clients or I see with other people in the gym is the ankles, the hips, and the thoracic spine. These three are the biggest problem areas in squat pain, squat depth, squat quality, everything. So if you can focus on these areas, this is really going to help you improve your squat. We're going to go over 2 exercises for each portion that I just discussed. So talking about the ankles, we have the ankle kettlebell stretch and banded ankle pulses. These are going to help increase range of motion in the ankle joint. So to improve range of motion in the ankle, I'm trying to keep my heel on the ground and improve how far I can get my knee over my toe. So I'm trying to reduce this angle of the foot and the knee. So increasing range of motion, but decreasing this angle. The kettlebell ankle stretch, I'm gonna start in this little lunge position. I can bring my knee a little bit closer to make it a little more easy. I'm going to sit down like this. I'm going to use the pressure of the kettlebell and the weight to press over like this, all right? So I'm pushing my knee over my toe. My ankle's still on the ground. I don't want it to come up. I'm just gonna hold this position like this, all right? Doing 60 seconds to 2 minutes per side is a great start. Next is the ankle pulse. So I have a band on my ankle. It's pulling backwards. I've got good tension on it. I'm using a medium thickness band. And this one I'm gonna be a little more dynamic. So similar position, but now I'm gonna try and push my knee as far as I can over, keeping the heel on the ground. I'm gonna rock back and forth like this, okay? So the tension is pulling me this way, and I'm resisting by pushing my knee over the toe, okay? So do this for about 30 to 60 seconds, trying to get a little more range of motion by the end of each set. Moving on to the hips, we have 2 hip exercises that I really like, and it is the hip switch and a banded hip distraction lunge position. So with the hip switch, I'm going to hit a lot of different angles of the hip, and that's why I really like this. Beginners can use this, intermediate and advanced people with their squat, because you can make it a little tougher or make it a little easier. So you're gonna start with your knees slightly bent, and then you're gonna lean over to one side. The goal is to try and get both legs near 90 degrees. And then I'm going to switch to the other side like this, legs still near 90 degrees, and I can use my hands like this and just rock back and forth. Think of doing 20 reps maybe, just slowly moving back and forth. How can I make this more tough? I could lean forward, have my hands in front, and do the same position, just like this. You could rotate, you could still use your hands and rotate. There's a lot of different ways that you can make it more difficult. Just hop on the ground, try it out, and see how you can challenge your hips by trying to maintain that 90-degree position in both legs. Okay, next is the hip distraction. I'm gonna have the band similar to the ankle, except for it's going to go laterally like this. It's not pulling me behind, it's pulling on my side like this. I have it very close in the hip crease. I'm just going to lean forward in a deeper lunge position, and I can rock back and forth a little bit or side to side with the knee like this, okay? Holding for 60 seconds, you can move around a little bit and see where it feels best for you. Next is the thoracic spine. This is the upper half of our spine. We need to mobilize this to allow us to keep our chest up in the squat. So the first movement is kneeling thoracic openers. So I'm just starting in a kneeling position like this, hands forward like this. I'm going to grab with one hand the back of my neck. I'm going to reach my elbow as far down as I can. And then I'm going to extend up as far as I can like this, and then just come back down, okay? So I'm gonna try and gain a little bit of range of motion each time. If it's too hard to hold on to your hand like this, you can just kind of hold a bent elbow position and just trying to get as high as you can each rep. Same goes for the other side. The next drill to improve your thoracic spine mobility is the can opener. This one's a little more difficult, but you can kind of scale it to where you are. So I'm gonna have my upper back placed on an object like a wall ball, foam roller, sandbag, something like that. The smaller it is, the easier it is gonna be, and then the bigger it is the more difficult it's going to be. I'm gonna have a kettlebell behind me like this. I'm going to reach back, grab the kettlebell, try and keep my arms as straight as I can, and then I'm gonna relax and try and sink my butt onto the ground like this, okay? So you can imagine if this was bigger, the angle would be larger and I'd be getting more of a stretch. And if it was smaller, then same thing, but it would be a little bit easier, okay? So you're gonna hold this for 60 seconds to 2 minutes and try and slowly open up your thoracic spine. The final drill that I really like involves all of the 3 things that I talked about that were kind of the biggest limiters. The spine, the upper back, the hips, and the ankles. It's called the wall twist. So I'm going to get into a squat as deep as I can. Don't worry about positioning, just max depth is best. So I'm gonna get like this. I'm gonna have my lower back kind of press into the wall. I'm gonna have one hand on the ground like this, pushing my knee out, and then I'm going to reach up and try and get as high as I can. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this arm straight and reach up like this. If it's a little tough, you can kind of go out to an angle. You're just trying to open up to the side on which arm is up. So I'm just gonna hold up like this, 30 seconds per side. I can come back down. Same this side. I'm just gonna go as high as I can and hold. The movements I just went to will give you an acute fix. So you might be able to squat really well after doing these, but tomorrow your squat could be back to the same, you could be really tight. You need to find a plan or find a way to make long-term growth. This doesn't mean that these movements aren't good for that, but these will just give you an acute fix. Now we have to make a plan on how to make it long-term. Now making long-term change is going to be tough, And it still does include those things I just mentioned, even though those are only going to give you an acute change at first. Building those things into your routine and keeping them in consistently is going to make big changes in your squat. Continuing to squat to full depth and practicing that weekly is also going to help you. So you want to make it a priority to squat deep and work on that. You also need to be consistent with squatting to depth. That may sound silly, but you need to always squat as deep as you can with keeping good positions. So don't limit your range of motion for no reason. Limit it to where you are safest and then try and improve on that. If you keep squatting not to your full depth, then it won't improve. You should be constantly seeking out ways to improve your squat depth or exercises or mobility drills. And they don't have to be just that, mobility drills, warm-ups, or anything like that. You can find exercises like wedge squats or goblet squats or knee over toe variations that you can work into your training so that you're not just spending the first 30 minutes of your day just working on improving the squat and not actually training. Time is limited. So find exercises that you can also improve on strength and get a good resistance training stimulus from while still trying to improve your squat position. One last note on trying to make long-term growth is making sure you are having good intentional cool downs. Make sure you're coming down from training, ride the bike, walk on the treadmill, get on the rower, do something nice and easy, get some light blood flow, and then do some stretching. Attack some of your weaker areas. Do this consistently. It doesn't have to be super tough, but you can make up a lot of ground and save some time by just adding in a little bit of a cool down routine to improve your mobility and range of motion. Leave the gym feeling good. You don't want to leave feeling all tensed up, tight, and pumped up still. Get a good flush. Make sure you feel nice and loose before you head home. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you learned a little bit about something about how to improve your squat depth, or why I think it's vital, very important, and crucial to squat below parallel and get as deep as you can. Just remember, perfect form or close to perfect form is always most important, so keep that in mind. As low as you can go while maintaining good positions. You can send us a comment, you can DM me, or email us, or go through our description to ask any questions further. If you are interested in improving your squat, or if you just have a few questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, or comment any future videos you might want us to cover, and I'll see you in the next video.